With a perfect storm of bad timing, rushed development, and corporate deadlines, EA's Battlefield 2042 got in the way of some actual game development. And what a shame at that, considering it was one of the most hyped games of its time. But now, with its recent patch addressing most of the game's issues, it seems that gamers might actually be able to see a playable version of the game. Or will they? Let's find out. Starting off by addressing the issues. In the short time following the game's release, it has managed to make almost everybody unhappy, except of course, some of the top Battlefield influencers, who seem to remain oddly quiet about the game's roster of issues. Can't afford to lose the sponsor money, right? And when we say roster of issues, we mean that quite literally. Don't take our word for it, the game's Reddit community will provide you with the master list, which is, to put it simply, pretty long. Now, we won't be listing out all of the issues for you. Lord knows this video won't ever end if we do, but with the help of a decorated Battlefield 2042 subreddit user, u/JellySwim, we'll try. The user has generously compiled a list of everything that's wrong with the game or stuff that it simply doesn't even include. Stuff that was included in many of the previous games in the series. So, what are the issues? The problem all gamers had with the title are abundant and widespread, which is never a good combination. They included the game's annoyingly cheesy voice lines, dissatisfactory map design and variety, frustratingly bad bullet spread that made accurate shooting pretty much impossible, and a lack of multiplayer game modes. Other complaints also include a lack of options regarding guns as compared to past releases, missing features and attachments such as thermal scopes, squad voice chat, lackluster scoring systems, and what many viewed as a weak array of vehicle choices. You can scour the Battlefield 2042 subreddit for yourself and see nothing but criticism and complaints over the game's bugs, missing features, and incredibly dumbed down mechanics. Things got so out of hand that there was once even a full-blown revolt that wasn't just confined to one big issue or another, but to the whole, yet a completely unfinished product that DICE and EA had released. But how did gamers react to the game when it came out? It was interesting to see how the game was received on Steam. For a while, there was even a competition to see which game would end up being the worst rated game of 2021, Battlefield 2042 or the remake of the Grand Theft Auto original trilogy. GTA ended up winning that battle though. It's pretty damn difficult to beat that game's awful reception on Metacritic. It felt less of a game and more of a cheap attempt at a cash grab from your oldest and most dedicated part of your fan base. However, unlike GTA, Battlefield's problems felt like less a cash grab and more like EA's usual habit of releasing rushed games in order to hit their corporate deadlines. Clearly, spending a few more months in the workshop could have resulted in a much more complete product, but sadly, video game publishers just never seem to learn from their mistakes. However, the recent update promises to deliver a somewhat finished game. It's safe to say that Battlefield 2042's launch didn't go quite as planned for EA, unless of course they expected people to enjoy an unfinished game. It had been shaping up to be the publisher's next big hit, but it ended up hitting a brick wall at launch instead. Though the hand-selected pre-release reviewers all said that they loved the base game, many players at launch didn't, so EA has been spending the past few months fixing it. Finally, as a result of all that unfinished work, being somewhat completed 6 months after the game's actual launch, Season 1 0 Hour hit the update queues of players around the world. Some of the main additions were a new playable rocket-loving specialist named Ewelina Liss, a new map based on the Canadian Rockies called Exposure, some new weapons including a crossbow and a marksman rifle, and a battle pass feature that contains many free and paid unlockables. It's certainly the meatiest batch of content the game has received since its launch, but it didn't revamp or fix all the core problems with the game. So, will this update win back the game's disappointed fans? The update did indeed bring in some neat new things to check out, but at the end of the day, it probably won't win you back without addressing some of the game's fundamental problems. Avid players who've still stuck around since 2042's rocky launch should be relieved that at least there is some new seasonal content finally arriving. But on the other hand, those who are returning for the first time since the game's launch shouldn't expect a massive overhaul of the experience, even if the game is in a slightly better place now. Ultimately, they'll still have to wait for some big reworks, and even then, not much will fundamentally change with the core problems with the game unless they actually put some effort into addressing the fanbase's complaints. Plus, Season 1's delay has shown us that DICE doesn't really have a decent track record of making sure updates arrive on time. Though the Season 1 updates are decent at the very best, it probably won't do much to win most of its players back. There's still some fun to be had, but it's barely doing enough to draw players away from some of the more consistent live service games such as Call of Duty's Warzone or Fortnite. However, all of you Battlefield fans can take comfort in playing a more polished and focused game, though don't expect this update to do much of anything else. We'll just have to see what the next update brings us, and our fingers are definitely crossed. Meanwhile, in other gaming news, first off, GTA fans keep accidentally deleting their owned cars with a misleading command. GTA Online players can collect a wide variety of vehicles that range all the way from bikes and cars to fighter jets and tanks. Though all of these vehicles can be stored in the game's multiple garages and hangars, the space inside each garage isn't limitless, which is where some pretty big problems can emerge. The problem in question happens when players acquire a new vehicle that they want to be stored. When choosing the option to store a vehicle, players can choose between many of their various in-game garages. However, if you try to store a vehicle in a garage with no extra space for it, a message pops up, making the player choose to instead replace an existing vehicle with a new one, or to put the new car in a different garage that has open slots available. Unfortunately, replacing a car here doesn't actually mean what it does to most players, who think that they're basically swapping the cars. But as it turns out, that's not what happens. Instead, whichever car you select to replace gets completely deleted from your account and becomes permanently unusable unless you buy it again. Many players have reported this problem for years, and it still continues to cause trouble to this day. But it should be easy enough for Rockstar Games to fix, as they could simply change the wording of the prompt. Next up, Genshin Impact's 3.0 update livestream reveals new possible team compositions. Genshin Impact's upcoming update finally introduces a brand new region named Sumeru, as well as a new elemental roster, Dendro. Some of the recent teasers have also revealed that the new element has the potential to trigger many new elemental reactions, and will also allow players to create new types of team compositions that revolve around it. A new video leak shows some of the types of team compositions that focus on using a new elemental reaction named Burgeon. And though the process sounds pretty complicated in theory, the leak shows just how easy it is to trigger this elemental reaction if players have the right team for it. Although HoYoverse hasn't revealed the official numbers for any of the elemental reactions, it's safe to say that the main DPS character that you'd need in this type of party should be a Pyro user to ignite the grass type attacks and put the Burgeon effect in motion. Ad Astra Abyssoske, travelers, happy adventuring. And lastly, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet reveal a brand new type of Pokemon. Many Gen 9 leaks circulating the internet revolve around all of the new Pokemon that are available in Scarlet and Violet, such as a new legendary quartet and the many different Paradox Pokemon. Recently, a well-known leaker by the name Riddler Koo shared some new information about what to expect from the game, as well as the size of the Pokedex. In addition to all of that, Koo also mentioned that there will be assault-based Pokemon, something that was already hinted at a few weeks ago with a riddle that read CuSO4, which turned out to be the chemical formula for copper sulfate, a crystal-like blue salt. Based on Koo's tweets, this Pokemon could also have something to do with Minecraft, since that's the other hint that they shared over Twitter. That's a wrap for this video. What problems do you think EA should address in the next Battlefield update? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.